All right, everyone, welcome to our session today. We're going to be doing a spotlight interview with agent Gabe Mendez. Gabe and I were connected about a year ago through a podcast that we were both featured on. And ever since then, he is someone that I've wanted to be in a continued room with. And you guys know how I am. If I'm in the room, I want you there with me. So, Gabe, thank you so much for being open to this conversation today. Gabe is an agent in the San Diego area. He is incredible at what he does. He does about 40 million in sales annually on his own. He also has a team that produces about 60 million. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about how it scaled, the benchmarks along the way. And then in addition to that, we're going to talk about the other streams of income. He has been able to snowball his passions, his talents into things like guest speaking, building a personal brand, and creating a monthly subscription program. I know we are all fond of taking what we are already doing and reusing it into additional income. So, Gabe, thank you so much for being an open book with us. We're so excited to talk to you. And one more thing before we get going, I know congratulations are in order. Congrats on the recent addition to your family. I know your time is even more valuable now than it was before.
Okay, you're so awesome. Thank you for the introduction. And I just want to say thank you for the honor of being here. I don't take it lightly. I know time is the most valuable asset that we all have. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I really want this to be a dialogue Q&A kind of thing where, I'm not talking at you, I'm talking with you. And there's certain things that I can prepare for and answer, but when we're engaged and you guys are asking questions, it really pulls more out of the speaker. And then in this case, it would be myself. So I want you all to feel encouraged, feel relaxed. I'm here to offer whatever insight I can. Kate, you've been a ray of sunshine since we've met. So thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the blessings. I'm super grateful for the third baby that we have, my wife and I.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, thanks again. And you guys heard it, right? So obviously the chat is open. If we get talking about things and you have a question, do the little hand raise icon. I know we mentioned it the other day, but it's under the react section. Or if we reach a natural pause, kind of chime in. Our goal here, Gabe and I chatted about this when we spoke a few weeks ago. Our goal here is transparency. We like to talk about tangible steps that were taken. And he has been in a lot of places where so many of us are, and that is the purpose of this conversation. So, Gabe, obviously, I did kind of a highlight overview for your intro, but there's nothing more powerful than hearing it from you directly. I would love for you to tell us who you are, where you are now, and then a little bit of like your origin story, how you got to where you are in real estate.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. Born and raised in San Diego. My family's first generation. Well, I'm first generation. My family's all from Mexico. And born and raised in the southern region. Got into real estate about 12 years ago now. Mother bought our first home back in 2005, 2008. We ended up losing it. We grew up very poor in San Diego. Always grew up in our living on and excuse me for my cough. My son was sick and he gave it to me just last night. So I woke up and I've been lemon hot water the whole thing this morning. So bear with me on that. But anyhow, yeah, we grew up really poor. It was, typical story. You hear a lot about it. I didn't use it as a crutch. As I grew older, I kind of used, what do they say? Your tests become your testimony. And I really leveraged that. I wanted to sit on that. So I never felt bad for myself, never wanted anyone to feel bad for me. Mom raised us to be strong, bought our home. We grew up really, and then we grew up in a really ritzy part of San Diego on top of that. So we're poor. All our friends are rich. We have a one-bedroom apartment that we're living in. Mom's like, no more, gets us a house. 2 years later, sheriffs are knocking on the door. And that was one of the most humiliating experiences that she had to go through. I didn't know much about what was happening. I just saw the notices and I saw the police sheriff standing at the door. But moms do what moms do. They protect their cubs. And she didn't show an ounce of fear. She didn't cry. She didn't say anything like that at all. And she covered us and said, "Hey, it's time to leave." We packed our stuff. We took what we could with us, and we were back on the couch at my uncle's house. They had to share a room. So the beauty and the privilege of being able to have your own room, that was short-lived for me. I didn't really have a traditional growing up. I didn't have friends come over. We didn't have the pool parties. It was always, we had to be out. So I missed that whole part of my life. And as I got older and I got into the real estate space, in 2012, I had a buddy of mine while I was in multi-level marketing and working at the Department of Corrections. I worked for the state prison here. I was going for CHP. I injured my ankle, got into multi-level marketing as a part-time thing. A buddy of mine said, "Hey, you're doing an awesome job. Come be my TC and I'll pay you 500 per file." And then it was at one particular signing for disclosures that stood out to me most. It was an elderly lady. She was crying. It was the first in-person signature that I had to get. Everything was done electronically at that time. And I went back to the office. I asked him, "Hey, what's going on?" She's crying. Most of your clients are upset. Like either A, you suck at your job, or B, there's something else that's going on you're not telling me. And he basically told me the whole backstory about the predatory lending, adjustable rate mortgages that happened in four, five, and six. Light bulb went off, and I thought to myself, "Man, that was us. That's what we went through." And immediately that night, I went home, had a conversation with my mother, and I asked her, "Hey, is this what happened to you?" And she looked me in the eyes and said, "Son, one day when you grow up, you'll understand the responsibility of as a parent, and it's to make sure that your kids always feel safe." And so I resented her for a little while because I felt like I could have done something to help her. Instead, she just let me live my youth as much as she could. And so at that moment, I vowed to get my license, and I wanted to advocate for first-time home buyer, first-time home seller, first generation, first-time buyer and seller people that are out there. And I wanted to advocate for those who didn't have a voice. So for those of us who are in coaching or have done coaching, I've invested everything from I've been involved in Mike Ferry system, Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, ninja selling. I've done the core. I mean, when I'm talking about coaching, I've done it all. And the one common denominator at that time is that we were being taught was, what do we do when we need a prospect? You have to qualify them. And all of the coaches at that time were saying, "Hey, ask them about their credit, ask them about their income. And if they don't have all those things, kick them to the lender, follow with them 90 days, 6 months down the road." Well, when I got into this space and I learned that we were all being taught as an industry to qualify and push them aside, the human aspect of me my heart started pounding. I thought to myself, how dare we? How dare we that it takes this person who's mustered up enough courage. And it's already scary talking to someone about something you don't know anyway. But how dare we, being in a privilege and position where we can guide people, that when they finally muster up the courage to come up to us and ask us about buying a home, the American dream, that we ask them a couple of questions and within minutes we're able to say, "Go talk to someone else and I'll come talk to me when you're ready." How humiliating. And for me, that was where I wanted to put my foot down and I wanted to be different. I thought to myself, if 90% of the agents are breaking their spirit in the initial consultation, how many people can qualify but are just too embarrassed to ask? So my message off the gate was, I'm the first time buyer, first time home buyer, seller guy. I don't care if you have low income, no income, no credit, some credit. I will walk you through the process. And so it wasn't glamorous. I wish I could tell you this next part was really glamorous and I rose to the top and man, like I'm screaming on top of the hill and they're singing my praises. It didn't work out that way. I went all in real estate 2015 in May. Within the first 6 months, I had my car repossessed at a listing appointment. I quit my job, ran through my savings, and it was a really humbling experience at that time. So that's how I got started in the real estate space. But a little bit about my personal side. I'm married. I've been with my wife now for 10 years. We have three beautiful children. I have a daughter who's 12, a son who's 7, and a newborn who's 1 week old. And God's been good to us. We have more than what we need. God's provided shelter, love, life. My grandmother, she's the rock of our family. She's 96 years old, still alive. I'm really grateful for that. So there's something in my heart that yearns to pour back into the community and to give back and to help where I can. I feel like that's my calling in life. So being able to get paid for what I do is just like the greatest joy. And these things where we're sitting around masterminding, being able to pull forward, I didn't have that growing up. Coldwell Banker is where I started my career. And I was the guy in the cubicle watching everyone grow up. And anytime I wanted to ask a top producer what they were doing, you can kind of sense that they wanted to tell you something, but they were leaving things out of it. I don't know how many of you guys on the chat could probably relate to that. Where, hey, you ask a question and maybe not in this group, but with other people in the past. And that was my experience. So I told myself that when I became successful, that I wanted to be an open book and share with other people. So fast forward 2015, I got my car repossessed. 2016, I stuck at it. And one of the valuable lessons that I learned was you can't sow and reap in the same season. You have to do two separate seasons. So I planted my seeds in 2015. 2016 was my harvest. I broke six figures that year. 2017, I broke over multiple six figures, 250,000. In GCI, 2018, I broke 400,000. 2019, 500,000. 2020, 600. 2021, 1.3. 2022, 900. 2023, three or four last year, 700 and 800. So over the last 4 years, I've averaged 1 million in GCI, about 40 to 50 million in my own production with the team, over 100 million in the last 3 years. I went everywhere from being a solo agent before social media was popular. So I knew how to knock on doors, shake hands, boots to the ground, selling face to face, understanding tonality, body language, all the way to leveraging social media, making my first hire, firing, having people betray you, managing profit and loss statements, understanding how to manage your CRM system, how to delegate effectively, but making the big leap from a solopreneur to a business owner and a leader, knowing that now 90% of your effort will be in managing and developing people. So I've done the whole spectrum of thing. I got my broker's license. I almost went down that route. And like the good word says, count the cost. Does a man not build a house before counting the cost? And I decided to count the cost. And I didn't want to have the overhead, the and insurance, the attorneys, and people dropping the ball on their contracts. So I decided to stay under a brokerage. And so, long story short, or long story long, that's kind of like a summary of where I am and how I got to where I am today, Kate.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. This is my second
Yeah,
time hearing it, and it's just as powerful. And I won't spend much time talking about this at this moment. I'm going to leave this for when we talk about guest speaking, but I do want to kind of underline what you just did. And it's just knowing your why, knowing your story, and being able to not only articulate it, but embody it and share that with your community. I think that really is what creates a resonance with the people that you're speaking with, whether it's your fellow coworkers or someone that you're going to be doing a transaction with down the road. And on a neurological point, I don't know if I said that right, but our as a human, our mind seeks storytelling. It is what makes sense to us. And so whatever your story is, make sure that you spend some time thinking about it. Make sure you spend some time thinking about what you want to share with people and how it's going to connect with them and how it plays a role, because I bet that where you came from is playing a bigger role in what you're doing today than you realize. So find a way to
yeah.
share that with people.
Kate, like you just said, there's a quote that I lived by early in my career, and it was facts tell, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. And I like these one-liners because when you're in that moment and you need to figure out what to do, if you can have a pocketbook full of one-liners, what you focus on expands. Facts tell, stories sell. Selling isn't telling. If you have these one-liners in those moments, you can pull them out of pocket. But I mean, to your point, Kate, how did we communicate as cavemen and women, Neanderthals? It was all hieroglyphics. We'd write on caves, we'd write on books, and the next tribe would walk in and they would read the fish and the water and this and that, and that's how we communicated. And what did we do, when we started developing language? Campfire, storytelling around there. And this is how we passed on messages from generation to generation. And whether or not you're a person of faith, I think the greatest storyteller of all time was my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And how did he influence people? And that was through storytelling and parables. And so a lot of my selling, Kate, comes from storytelling, and a lot of my connection on social media comes from storytelling. And I find that when you can present the facts, it'll get people to think. But the moment you can put it into a story where they can relate to, this is where they make a selling decision. It's just like buying a car. I can tell you that it's 400 horsepower and leather seating and power windows, but it isn't in the moment until I get you in there and I future pace you and I say, man, imagine, listen, yeah, the down payment right now, maybe the payment's a little higher on the higher end, but you're not thinking about that when you're cruising down the beach, when you're picking up your prospect. You're not thinking about that when you have a safe family vacation, you're all-wheel drive. You're thinking about what a great decision you might have made. And when your back's against the wall, we all know that you perform better. So you'll be feeling better, performing better. And I'm telling them the story, walking them through the feeling and the emotion of what it would be like. So absolutely, Kate, you're spot on with that.
So speaking of stories, I want to talk about some of the stepping stones along the way. We won't spend too much time here, but you mentioned in passing MLM. You had a few different careers leading up to real estate. I'd love to know, looking back, what were some of the biggest takeaways you had during those? Because they were all sales roles in their own different ways. What were some of the key takeaways that you took in those moments that helped you in your real estate career getting started, and even today, maybe?
The number one takeaway from multi-level marketing in sales skills is communication, both verbal and nonverbal. So we have to understand that if you look at the pie chart of selling on whether or not someone makes a buying decision, I believe it's 55% of someone's decision of whether or not they hire you or trust you is nonverbal. It's all physical mannerisms. What is your body doing? And this is one of the things that I coach most all of my agents on in the very beginning is I have them present to me face on, and I watch all of their nervous ticks, their ums, their ahs, their body language. Are they talking too much with their hands? Are they making a deadly eye contact with the prospect, making them feel uncomfortable? And we're watching that because 55% of a person's decision is weighted on just physical cues. The other the total percentage comes out to 93% between body language and tonality. So listen to this, team. 7% of a person's decision on whether or not they believe you, whether or not they hire you, 7% is weighted on the actual words that you say. The words. Okay? This is science here. This has been proven, it's been studied. So why is it as sales professionals we script practice? Why are we practicing on the 7%? When you can say the wrong thing with the right physiology and the right tonality. If you say the wrong thing with the right physiology and the right tonality, you believe it, they'll hire you on the spot. I can say something like this to you guys. Hey everyone, my name is Gabe Mendez and I'm so excited to be here. And did you know that all the stats that I just made up were BS? And at the very end of this, I'm going to sell you on a BS program and you guys are going to love it. You're like, wow, this sounded confident. He looked right at me. He was smiling the entire time, but what he said and how he said it didn't it wasn't it was incongruent. Well, it's because the tonality and the body language were incongruency. And as long as you can master those two things, what your body, pardon me on that, as long as you can master what your body's doing and how you're delivering your message, 93% of the decision is weighted in that. And the other 7% is just don't talk yourself out of it. And I find that most people, we yap too much and the deal's already done. But the nervous habit or the inability to stay quiet in an awkward silence is what talks us out of the deal. So number one was communication, learning how to effectively communicate. And that's something that I spent the last 10 years, I feel like I'm at a mastery level. I took independent classes at Toastmasters. I took courses at my junior college down the street. I surrounded myself in rooms where I was just uncomfortable to be in, city hall, town hall kind of meetings. But I'll tell you this, based on my ability to communicate with nonverbal and tonality cues, my closing ratio at listing appointments has moved up from 80% to 90%. Cold market. I close 100% of everything that's referred, as we all should, but 90% of my listings are closed highly because of my ability to communicate. And the last thing I'll say on communication skills is this. In our country's history, we had never had an African American president. And the first president, black, that was nominated to be president for 8 years, 2 terms, was because of his ability to effectively communicate. Think about this. I mean, just a few decades prior, racism was still very true and very alive. Segregation was still very alive and true. And he was able to win the hearts of both sides. Why? Because of communication. If the president could get appointed in office, despite being African American or black, despite that, because he was able to effectively communicate, that should tell all of us something on this call today. That we should put more time and attention into how we say something and what our body is saying, not just what we're saying.
I've mentioned it a few times, but when I first got started, the firm that I was at made me do something that was wildly uncomfortable at the time, but it's something that I really encourage people to do, which is do your buyer or seller presentation to friends and family for that exact reason, because they know us well. You know, most of the time we're going to go to these situations where we are the ones educating them and our family knows us well, and so they are going to have no problem telling us like, hey, you're talking way too fast, or hey, that body language is not leaving me any room to jump in, right? So I totally hear you. Get a little bit uncomfortable, be willing to hear the feedback. Brian and I leading these sessions, it's been quite a lesson in our own way of like making sure that we are comfortable with that uncomfortable silence when we ask a question, putting ourselves on mute and leaving room a few seconds and probably a little bit longer for people to chime in. So great
Yep.
feedback. I want to circle
Yeah.
back to your story. You were talking about being a TC and then you got into real estate and you shared all of your production with us, but how did you start to build your client base? I too was someone that found my value as an agent was educating people. I really connected with the first time buyers and sellers. But how did you find those people? That's actually what we were talking about before you hopped on is if you don't want, did you buy leads or did you just nurture? What was that like for you?
The very first stream of business that I had was cold calling and door knocking. Now, my philosophy as it relates to buying leads is I would rather be taught how to fish than be given a fish. And as a leader, I would rather teach people how to fish than giving them fish. And I think that builds loyalty. And I think that builds a skill that is irreplaceable. See, if you're buying leads, you're subject to the strength of the lead source. If they come in, your business is tied to that. And I don't like that feeling. So I felt that it was best to go out there and boots on the ground, raw selling, face to face, belly to belly, and door knocking and cold calling. So everything in the very beginning of my career, 2014, 15, and 16, those 3 years, were all pounding the pavement. It was old school traditional. And let me tell you now, old school traditional right now is winning in this market. Social media, it's great. That's where all my business comes from. But the moment I go out there and I call on Vulcan 7, so I pay for the subscription. I call on Vulcan 7. I just got done signing a 1.7 multifamily here in San Diego right before this call. And I learned how to do everything traditionally. And the skills were the communication, the selling, the presenting aspect of it. So here's what my schedule would look like. It was nasty. I probably couldn't do it now because I have 3 kids. But right when I was single, just getting into the business, it was 5 days a week cold calling from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then I would take a break. I would go to the gym. I would go back, second round of cold calling, get ready, knock on doors from 3 to 6, go home, write my thank you cards, prepare my CMAs, drop them off the next day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 6 hours a day, hosting open houses. Why was I that obsessed? Because a mentor of mine who was extremely successful said one thing: Gabe, real estate is a sport. Make contacts, write contracts. If you complicate it more than that, your business will be complicated. If you focus on making contacts and writing contracts, your business will do well. Multi-level marketing taught me that philosophy before I got into real estate. So I already had the mindset of if I speak to 10 people, I'll get one to say yes. And as my skills improve, my ratio will improve. I speak to 10 people, two will say yes. And like in sports, baseball, you bat a 300, you get paid tens of millions of dollars. You get paid tens of millions of dollars to miss 7 at bats and to hit 3. That's incredible. In our business, if you talk to 10 and you get 3 to say yes, we're millionaires. We're millionaires if you talk to 10 and get 3. So I looked at it as this ratio game. Like, I need to go out there, I need to make I just need to talk to enough people every day. And that's what I did in the very beginning, Kate, is as it was a contact sport and I was all in.
What was your favorite script for door knocking, especially? I think that's something that people are open to, but they're really intimidated by. What would
Uh,
what was it then and what would it be now?
it's always been the same, and it's been the same for door knocking and cold calling. I learned it from Mike Ferry, but I also put some neuro. So I took NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and I didn't become certified, but I took the course for a year on knowing what words to use, when to use them, how to emphasize on certain parts of the word. But anyway, my point is this: um, can we role play? Yeah. Does someone want to be the homeowner?
Someone aside from me. I can
Yeah.
do
Does
it.
someone want to be
Okay,
the homeowner?
Marilyn.
Marilyn?
That's what you okay.
Yeah, Marilyn. All right,
Okay.
Marilyn. So, Marilyn, I'm just going to knock on your door, and this script works if it's just listed in escrow or just sold. All right. And before I go into the conversation with you, I need to remind you guys about some certain key points. When you're knocking on someone's door, you have a few seconds to capture their attention. Capture. And you don't start off the conversation with, "Hi, my name is." If you're wearing a badge, they can see it, or your name's on the flyer. Your goal is to get the point across and to get the conversation started. and then we bridge it to where we want to take it. And this is what it sounds like. So, Marilyn, there's going to be a pause because we're on Zoom. So when I finish mine, just wait a second, respond. I'll wait a second, and we'll just flow from there. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, here we go. Knock, knock, knock.
Yes, hello.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm just stopping by to let you know that we just listed your neighbor's home for sale. It's a three-bedroom, two-bath, 1,500 square foot model, and we just listed it for $599,000. Were you aware of the sale?
I was not, but I have to tell you that our neighborhood doesn't allow soliciting.
Perfect. I'm not here to solicit anything to you. This is just an advisory notice, just to let you know that the home is for sale. Here's the flyer. Go ahead and take that from me.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, how long have you lived here?
About 15 years.
15 years. And which model did you guys purchase?
The Sanford.
The Sanford model?
Mhm.
Is that the four bedroom?
It's the 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath.
Three bedroom, two and a half bath. Okay, so it's a similar model to the one down the street.
Mhm.
Awesome, perfect. And it sounds like, did you guys take advantage of the refinance boom a few years ago?
We did. We refinanced at 2.5%.
Awesome, congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're asking the neighbors in the area for some feedback on the property because obviously you know the area better than I do. So my conversation is 2 points. Number one, if you happen to know of anyone that's looking to move into the area, this is a great time for you to choose your neighbor. And my contact information is there. So would you happen to know of anyone that has been thinking about moving here?
Not really, but if you leave me your card, if I think of anyone, I'll let you know.
No, no, no pressure at all. And my contact information is on the flyer. The second thing I wanted to ask you was, what are three things that you love about this neighborhood that I might not find online that we can add to the marketing material?
I love my location. I love that there's a Walgreens on the corner and a Harris Teeter supermarket down the street, and that I can be on the highway in about 5 minutes. So location, my location.
What do they say? Location, location, location. Is that right? Love that. Awesome. I completely slipped my mind. I didn't get your name. My name is Gabe. What's your name?
Hi, Gabe. My name is Marilyn.
Marilyn. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure with you. And the last question for you. Do you and the family have any plans on making a move in the near future now that we're seeing prices go back up again?
Possibly, possibly. We may want to
Oh,
just move to a larger home. We
larger
may need
home. Got it.
a 4 bedroom would be nice.
And if you guys were to move down the road to a four bedroom, where would you guys move to? What area?
Probably stay in the area. I would say in probably the immediate area.
Stay in the area, immediate area. Perfect. Okay. And just out of curiosity, would you guys be using the equity from the sale of the house to purchase the next and roll it over 100%? Or do you have savings you'd be using
Probably using equity for the most part.
the equity on the purchase? That makes a lot of sense on there. That's exactly what we're actually helping your neighbor do as well. They sat down with us, we showed them the numbers, and because they purchased about 10 years ago, the amount of down payment will help offset the higher price point, and we're negotiating a 2-1 buy down to keep their payments at a reasonable cost. So same exact thing that you guys are considering. Marilyn, just out of curiosity, if we could help you list and sell your home for top dollar, like we're doing for your neighbor, and then find the four bedroom in this area at a reasonable price, do you think you and the family would consider those options sooner rather than later?
Maybe we don't want to put any more money into this house. We think it would probably be better for us to buy a new house and to add more money or more upgrades into the house. So possibly.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have done a great job. I see the lights and some of the paint, but any other major upgrades you guys have done that aren't visible?
Oh gosh, we've done so much, a ton of landscaping.
Landscape. That's a hefty project there. Yeah.
Yes, and a new roof. We did a put it on a new roof
Awesome job. How long ago was that?
about 7 years ago.
7 years on the roof and landscaping, paint, lights. Fantastic job. Okay.
Updated two of the bathrooms too.
Updated two of the bathrooms there. Wow, awesome job. Did you guys replace the vanities and the toilets?
We did. Yes.
Wonderful. And tell me a little more. Anything else that you guys might have done that's like, oh, you have to account for this?
Um, that is it primarily. We just did a little bit of landscaping, added some new gutters.
You guys, I got that. Perfect. Well, awesome. And then just out of curiosity, last thing for you, if everything were to work out and you guys had a magic wand, you got your price, the payment on the next home made sense, timeline wise, when would this ideally happen for you
Maybe within this year.
this year? Perfect. Okay. It just sounds like as long as it makes financial sense for you, then and everything lines up, then then maybe you consider it, right?
Yes, possibly.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
let's do this, Marilyn. I'll do the same thing that I did for your neighbor down the street. I'll prepare what's called the comparative market analysis report. It'll just show you what things are selling for in the area. And based on what you told me, I'll give you a value range of your home, what the lowest it could sell for, the highest it could sell for. And this is complimentary, nothing charged for you. You don't have to sit down with me. I'll drop it off to you. And I'll also provide what's called the net sheet. And the net sheet will show you what you'll earn from the sale. So this way, you and your family have a visual of what you could potentially make on it. And if things look great from there, I'd like to sit down with you guys and talk about some of the options so that you can start planning for a potential move. Does that sound fair?
I think it does. Yeah. I like the idea of
Oh,
seeing the net sheet just to see what we're going to walk away with. That I hadn't thought of working that out or figuring that out. So that's helpful.
absolutely. I mean, it all starts with it, just at least understanding the numbers and seeing if it makes sense and then putting the pieces into place. So let's just go step by step. Sound good?
That sounds good. That
Okay.
sounds
So I have your information. And the last question for you, Marilyn, what's the loan balance of your primary mortgage?
about 235,000.
235K, perfect. Okay. Well, here's what I'll do. I've taken enough of your time. I promised the homeowner that I'd go promote the sale for their property. So I'm going to get back to doing that. But what I'll go ahead is I'll stop by first thing tomorrow morning. I'll drop off the CMA report at your door. And then afterwards, I'll give you guys a call. Let's just say tomorrow around like 5 o'clock to make sure you had it. And then we can go from there. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate your help.
Marilyn, it's a pleasure. And last thing, what's your phone number? 619
2244.
2244. Perfect. Awesome. All right, Marilyn, we'll chat soon. Enjoy the day.
All right. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay.
Awesome job,
That's the script.
y'all. It
Marilyn, I
sounds like
like,
you got more out of her than a lot of listing agents provide, like even in their
Especially,
listings.
especially if I told him that there were
Thanks
no
for doing that, Gabe.
solicitors, but I just kept talking to him anyway. I felt bad for
Marilyn,
him.
I want to ask you on that though, all right? Because this
Yes.
wasn't planned. This wasn't planned at all. And you did
No,
tell me no soliciting.
I
But
did
why did you keep going?
because you kept engaging me. And also because you were polite and I didn't want to be rude. If I had a small baby that was sleeping in the next room, I probably would have closed the door and said, thank you for coming by. Or if I was in the middle of a conference call or a Zoom call, I probably would have, not answered the door maybe. Or making
So
dinner. Maybe I would have just said, oh, I've got to go get whatever's on the stove.
your first two answers were polite and engaging. And the way that I
Yes.
like to reframe those words are mannerisms and delivery. So my mannerisms and how I delivered what I said. And it's the first thing I told you guys on the call, body language and delivery. And with those two things, I was able to defuse Marilyn, get her guard down, get her talking. And it was very just nonchalant. And then I booked an appointment with her and planted the seed. So that's the script that I use for just listed, just sold, in escrow, open house invitation, cold calling. I always revert back to that script. It accomplishes so much in that short time.
And always remember if people are quick to want to close the door, be like, awesome. As a reminder, we're doing an open house this weekend. My info is right on there. If traffic starts bothering you, if anyone parks in front of your driveway, just know that's my info. Like you can still put a bow on things as people are kind of closing the door. So thanks for
Yep,
doing that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of building your business, obviously it sounds like hitting the pavement. You've spent some time there. How did you continue to follow up with your people once you started building that client base? What was your preferred method of staying in front of people? Was it mailers or social media? What was it?
No, so it was all old school. So I had a yellow notebook that said follow-up list, and I would put everyone in the yellow notebook in the very beginning. I'm not even joking, you guys. I still have it till this day somewhere in my office. And it's an old school notebook where I'd write everyone's names and numbers. And every single day when I got to the office, I would open it up and I'd look at my notes that I had written down for myself. And one thing that I kept in mind is that as sales professionals, it is our responsibility to force the relationship. We can't assume because we're amazing speakers, we're the market leader in that area, that people are just going to respect us. It's our responsibility to force the relationship. If you want friends, you have to be a friend. And if you want prospects, then you have to be the agent that people want to do business with. So CMA reports, net sheets, thank you cards, handwritten thank you cards. I mean, think about it, right? I'm old enough to know the dot-com boom, and I remember when email was first a thing, and the whole crash of '99 when we thought the world was going to die at midnight. if you guys all remember that. And I remember when emails were a thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got an email. And we were so happy. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I got another email. But what happens when we get a handwritten thank you card? We've reversed. Times have gone back. Now, when we get a letter in the mail with our name, address, and it looks personal, it doesn't look like spam or a bill, we get excited to open it up. And now there's a higher opening ratio. So it just takes a little bit of time. Listen, most agents that I find out in the business, we have one of two problems. Either we have a boatload of time and no money, or a boatload of money and no time. So if you have a lot of time but no money, then you're just lacking resourcefulness. Get out there, create the opportunity, create the relationship. I want to do a poll, and I'm just curious out of everyone who's on the call right now, and I want to just prove something to you guys. In the last however many years you lived at your home, can you count? Can you guys tell me how many times a real estate agent has door knocked on your home since you lived where you're at? Has it been frequent? Zero, zero. I see one. Marilyn says two. Donna says two. Marilyn, out of curiosity, how long have you lived where you're living?
About 15 years, 16 years.
15 years and two people. I think it was Donna was the other person. Was it? I think so. Can you tell me how long, Donna, you've lived where you're living?
8 years, but there's like probably 15 agents in my neighborhood. So two of
Okay.
them didn't know I lived here.
8 years, two people, 15 years, two people. That is a total of 23 years and four people in 23 years. And the rest of us, zero, 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 zero. That should tell you something. That if we know for a fact that we're in the business of selling energy and trust, that 93% of a person's decision is weighted on nonverbal communication and how we deliver our words, then we should stop. We should get off of social media. We should get off of the phone, and we should go to where no one is going. If you go direct to consumer, you knock on the door and you're polite and you're engaging, just like Marilyn stated, and you have an item of value to deliver, and you understand your words, you know how to get there, not memorize, internalize your script. See, there's a difference between memorizing and internalizing. I'll prove it to you. See, a Class C actor or actress in these low budget films that we see, they memorize their scripts. They know what to say. But the world class, Leonardo DiCaprio's, Julia Roberts, the world class actors and actresses of our time internalize the script. You want to know something? I cry every time Jack gets let go and falls into the ocean in Titanic. I don't know why. Number one, I'm a dude. I shouldn't be crying at that. And the second thing, it's fake. It's not even a real love story. But I'm crying like a baby, sobbing with my wife, and she's like, "Here, honey, here's a tissue." I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so great. Why? There was enough room, I promise you. But they sold us on how good the acting was. They internalized it. So the director said, here's your script, memorize your script, and now get paid tens of millions of dollars to deliver that script. Ladies and gentlemen, we're no different. You have a script. You should have a script for every part of your business. When someone cold calls you on a sign, sees you at the grocery store, sends you a direct message on social media, you need to have a script for every single part of your business. If not, be the Class C low budget filmmaker. Or if you want to get paid tens of millions of dollars, do what the actors and actresses do. They get a script, they memorize it, and then they internalize it, and they can make us feel something through a screen, even if it's a made up story.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
Brian and I say that all the time. Like, get in your car, practice those conversations, and just practice it over and over and over again, because
Absolutely.
people can feel when you're reading it. You said something that I want to use as a jumping off point for where I want us to head next, which is when you've got boatloads of money, sometimes maybe just a little more than you're used to, but no time. I want to talk about you scaling your business. You were an agent that was crushing it. This is something I think so many people can relate to. So this is something I really like to try to spend some time on, is that first hire. Obviously, there's hires that come after it, but often the very first one is the most intimidating because there's cost involved. There's more time that you have to find to train them. And you kind of have the fear of like, will it even work out? Will I tell them everything, teach them all my ways, and then they leave, right? So I would love to know, I know this has happened to you. I would love to know what that first hire looked like. Was it something that was a part of your business plan and was a stepping stone that you kind of planned on? Did you just stumble into it because you reached a breaking point? And then what was that hire? What did that look like? And how has it evolved over time into the team that you have now?
Yeah. So the first hire was out of necessity. Excuse me. First hire that I made was out of pride and ego. If I'm being transparent with all of you, I just wanted to beat my chest and say, "Look at me, I have a team, and it's so awesome." And that was pretty dumb. I hired an assistant and I hired an agent, and they came onto the team. I had no financial structure. I said, "Here's $500, do some work, and then I'll pay you $1,000 every 2 weeks." It was just a mess, and that didn't last long. And then I finally learned how to hire. The first hire I ever made were agents because I wasn't gonna relinquish the administrative role responsibilities, and what I wanted to do was to free up my time. So showing agent, buyer's agent, I put them on splits, and that was a really bad move in the beginning. I no longer hire any more real estate agents on splits. If you're on a split, it's because you're on a mentorship program with me. You're not on my team. And I'm just going to coach you just like I would a coaching student, like Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry. You'll pay me a percentage of your deals, or you'll pay me a small retainer. So that's on the hiring side of things. But again, you never want to pay an agent on a split, in my opinion, because fiscally it just doesn't make any sense. I'll prove it to you. Let's just say your average sales price is 400,000. You get paid 3% on that. It's $12,000. The lowest a good agent will take is 50% on the deal. You get the lead, you give it to them, 50%. $12,000 check, $6,000 they get paid. Let's just say you help them close 2 to 3 deals per month. They're making $12,000 to $18,000 taking your leads. You multiply that times 12 months, $144,000 a year. They get paid than most professionals, law enforcement professionals, firefighters. Number one, they're never going to work harder than they have to. Number two, you've just conditioned them to open their mouth and get their fish. And number three, because they're on a split, there's no legal obligation or NDA or non-compete that says I can't go after your database once I leave. So you've just trained your competition, you've overpaid your competition, and what's the normal life cycle of an agent? I get my license, I learn from someone, I branch off, I start my own team, I kill it, I grow a team, I want to become a brokerage, and it's my name on the wall, my name on the sign, and that's what it is. And that's fine. We all go through it. But the problem is the agents you're bringing on board, they want that too. And congratulations, they just developed a relationship with all your clients. And now the loyalty aspect comes into play where clients are reaching out to them because you weren't involved. So that's the learning process that I had. So I learned how to hire everyone on W-2, showing agents and assistants. So my team makeup right now is I have an administrative assistant on W-2. I have a escrow and listing manager on salary, and I have one showing assistant on salary plus bonus. Everyone, I have legal hiring agreements that are that were helped drafted by attorneys with NDAs in places with every clause you can think about to protect your business. Excuse me. And now I've been able to scale it. But at what point do you start hiring and who do you know how to hire first? It's a very challenging question to answer because it all really comes down to what the makeup is of your business. Are you more listing or buyer heavy? How many units per month are you doing? What's the average sales price? What are the wages in the area that you have to account for? So these are all the things that you're thinking about. But just to kind of give you like a rule of thumb so you guys can so you have something to write down right now, every 3 deals that you're closing, you should be hiring help. Every 3 deals. But it has to be 3 deals consecutively for 3 months. So if you're closing a minimum of 3 units for 3 months, then you make your first hire. If you're buyer heavy, hire a showing assistant. If you're listing heavy, hire an administrative assistant. That should free up your time. Let's just buyer assistant, showing agent. That should free up your time to go find 3 more deals. And then now you're at 6. Close 6 consecutive 3 months, get a second showing assistant. And this is how you scale your business. The best analogy I can give you is this. Think about like a restaurant. You know, you can open up a 5-star restaurant, you can have a taco shop. What's the experience at a taco shop? No one valets your car, no one hosts you at the door, no one waits on you at your table, and you get some greasy food within 7 minutes and they throw it on the tray. Here you go sit down and eat, throw away your own trash. This is how most real estate agents operate their business. Most people operate their business this way. And it's not bad. It's just all we know. Or you have the 5-star service. You arrive to your restaurant. Valet opens your door. Take the keys from you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Grabs the key. Parks the car. You walk to the front door. Hostess checks you in. You sit down at your table. Waiter and waitress waits on you all evening, making sure that everything's right the way it's supposed to be. General manager walks around, makes sure that all the customers are taken care of. And they can service 30, 50, 100, 200 people in their restaurant at any given time. Doctor's office, you walk inside, secretary, nurse pulls you in the back, checks your vitals. Doctor goes in for 5 minutes, diagnoses you, and leaves. Most people run their practice. They're the secretary, they're the nurse, they're the doctor. And then what ends up happening is you end up dropping the ball on current customers. Your customer service drops. The quality of your service drops. You get fired. You take on less business, or you take on more business and now you have no time. So this is the cycle that we all go through.
And so, what would be your advice? Obviously, I think if you are an individual agent who has no assistants, even thinking about like hiring the first person is intimidating. You just said after 3 deals, I need to be hiring another person. I think a lot of people are like, oh, there's just no way I'm instantly going to be like this. This isn't true for me, right? So, what would you say to someone that has yet to hire their very first person? Obviously, it depends on their business and where they're heavy and what they want to focus on, like you just said. But what tangible steps would you take if you aren't there yet, but you can see it coming? You want to avoid burnout, you want to stay doing the parts that you love. What would be your advice to that agent?
So the first thing is that you have to identify what it is you want to do, what you want to do long term. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to take your business? I will tell you right now, being number one in my office, now with my company in the state of California last year, I was ranked the number one agent in our company statewide. And there's a cost that's associated with doing those numbers. And if you're okay, sleepless nights, if you're okay with managing people, if you're okay with running a high level profit and loss statement, if you're okay with all these things that are associated with that, then by all means. But if you're not, and you think you want that because the pressure of the sales environment, or because this is what's being fed to you, you have to just be okay knowing that you're at peace with your decision. I define success by two things: peace and happiness. If you're at peace and you're happy, you're winning. You can close 2 deals a month, 1 deal a month. Don't let anyone pressure you no more. But if you make the decision that you want to scale and you want to grow, then that's when you start to reverse engineer. How big do you want to get? What do you want your customer service to look like? When a client calls you and you're at a listing appointment, is your call forwarding on, or is it going straight to voicemail? What's the experience you want your customer to have? I want a 5-star Michelin service restaurant in my real estate practice. Therefore, I'm willing to pay the overhead and the wages and the maternity leave. I'm willing to pay those things because I want that quality of service. So the first thing I would tell you all is, number one, define what it is that you want. 2, sit down with someone who's been there, done that can help you reverse engineer what that looks like. Number 3, the last thing I'll say is this: if you do want to grow and you don't have the assistant, you are the assistant. And now you're being paid less for a lower per dollar per hour activity that you could be delegating to someone else to go get paid the $50, $100, $200 per hour that you're worth.
I was an entrepreneur in another life as well. And so I used to have this story in my mind of every person that's a business owner gets to a certain point in your business where you're no longer doing the part that you love. And I think actually that was just a self-reflection of like, I waited too long to hire that person. And so I love having these types of conversations because this is probably the third person I've heard say that, right? Is like, take a step back. What do you love? And what do you want to keep on your plate? What does that mean in terms of what you are capable of outsourcing? And where do you want it to go? Our
Absolutely.
interview in next month is someone that is also an individual agent doing about 40 million, and she had no desire to run a team, right? And so her hire was an assistant. Anyway, so thank you for sharing all of that. We've spent a lot of time, so I want to honor everyone's time. We're kind of running up on it. We still have quite a bit to talk about, so I'll try to cram it all together. I'm going
I'll
to
give
kind
you
of
fast
layer on
answers, I
some topics.
promise.
I want to talk about your public speaking opportunities and YouTube, because they kind of went hand in hand. YouTube is something that thankfully a lot of people are kind of getting on the train of. It is, if you look at the stats, if you type in like social media users, it is second only to Facebook. I think a lot of people look at Instagram and TikTok and automatically think they are the leaders, and they're not. YouTube is double the user base. I think it's like 2 billion users or something like that. So anyway, I would love to know what got you into public speaking. I know you hit on it, but when you mentioned it in our conversation the other day, it was really dynamic, talking about how much time you've put into that, um, including like time in your car. And yeah, I'd love to know kind of what spurred your YouTube stuff.
So to answer the public speaking was simple, multi-level marketing. So when I broke my ankle in the academy for CHP, California Highway Patrol, when I broke my ankle, I was on leave for 6 months, disability. And that's when I got into multi-level marketing. I went to an event where there was this guy on stage. He filled up the Miami Heat arena, 60,000, 40,000 people, whatever it was at that time. And he was the founder of the company that I was working at. And I remember being in the crowd and watching this 35-year-old stud stand in front of 40,000 people. And he's taking us through this emotional roller coaster. We're happy, we're cheering, we're crying. And at the very end, we're fired up and we're ready to go into battle. And I remember just like being enamored by this guy. I was in awe. Like, how can someone be so gifted that I've never met? And I'm in a room full of 40,000 people and everyone's crying and everyone's laughing and everyone's fired up. So I learned that that communication was everything at that point, and I wanted to go down that route. And that was something that I wanted to do. And I knew it was going to be a long-term plan because at that time, I was the guy that couldn't make eye contact. I couldn't come up with a cogent idea and deliver it effectively. I was the uncomfortable guy. I was the guy that would speak like a boring professor in college. Wah, 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 wah. And and I wanted to change all that. So it was a long journey. That was the catalyst to get me started. And then from there, 10 years of, and still ongoing till this day, I compete on a national level for public speaking. Toastmasters as an international reach, and I compete on a national level. So I go up against other professional speakers. We have 7 minutes to deliver a speech, and we have certain criteria that we have to meet. And I competed last year. I made it. I was 2 or 3 rounds away from the world stage in Vegas. I didn't make it that far, but this is just something I do because it's fun and I need to keep the skills sharp. So that was my public speaking journey. I decided to do it. I didn't know when the opportunity would meet my preparation, but that happened a couple of years ago when I got invited to go speak at a real estate seminar in Miami, 500 people. And then I got invited to a 1,000-person event. And then I spoke on the stage with Ed Milet. And then I'm traveling the country speaking on stage. And before you know it, you start doing a really good job. And then people start offering to pay for your flight, start offering you where you can sell on stage. So it just opened up an entirely different world for me that I had no idea to be going down. And so that was that. And then the second part to your question, what was the other thing? Oh, YouTube. So the YouTube thing, honestly, Kate, that just happened. The wife and I were YouTubing our relationship. So pranks, and I'd sleep one night and she'd go and shave the side of my head while I was sleeping and put it on YouTube, those kind of things. And we had a lot of fun. You know, there was I remember this one prank I did on her. It was an earthquake prank. And I bought all these GoPro cameras. I put them all around the house. I had a bunch of my buddies hide in the closets, hide behind the fridge, hide outside of the windows for 3 hours until she fell asleep. And this is in California a few years ago when all the earthquakes were taking place. And so I had a buddy of mine in the living room turn on YouTube to one of those like prefabricated like videos of like, this is your government. This is a warning, let you know there's a level 9 or seismic activity, a tsunami's coming towards San Diego, and it's blaring out. It's like 2 a.m. She wakes up, she's crying. All the windows start to get pounded on. I run outside, and as I'm pushing, babe, you gotta go. We gotta leave the house. I fall on the floor. I'm like, just leave without me. And she looks back and she's like, okay. And she leaves, and she's outside, and she's bawling her eyes out at 3 a.m. And she's looking around, and no one's outside. And I have the camera crew. So, you know, we're doing all these fun pranks and we're just documenting our life, having a good time, enjoying our relationship. And then finally, one of our videos went viral, and it was our engagement video where I proposed to her. And I think the video now has like somewhere like 10 million views. I documented our birth of our child, our son together. That one has like 250,000. So we just started having fun with it. And I realized that this is something that people wanted to see. And that opened up a whole nother world of being an influencer that I had no intention of being. And so that was a fun thing in itself. So we built it organically all the way to 70 something thousand subscribers. And that helped us with our online business, coaching, school platform, high ticket coaching. So I started off with low ticket coaching. And I started to realize how really good my stuff was. My ability, the last thing I'll say is this. There's a test that all of you should take. It's called Clifton Strength Finder. Clifton Strength Finder. I encourage all of you to please take it. If you want to know what your strengths are as a person, not your personality, not disc, but what your strengths are, this test will tell you. My number one skill in my entire arsenal of skills was problem solving. I can take a complex idea, simplify it, and inject it and have people deliver on it. So my coaching program on School, the platform that I have, is that I take complex ideas in real estate, I simplify them to a really simple answer, bite size, and it does really well. So because of the YouTube, I was able to then translate those skills over to School, then become an independent coach. I don't market the services, I don't talk about it. It's just something that I offer, if people ask about it. But my main thing is real estate and building teams. But anyhow, that's how that all happened.
I can safely say that was not at all the answer that I was expecting.
Oh,
I remembered that when we talked last, you were mentioning how you used to put your speeches that you were giving, you paid someone to come record it and you put on YouTube. So I thought that's where we were headed, but I'm
that
just going to
too.
go ahead and say that. And so on that note, though, I think reusing content is something that's so important, which is exactly what you did for your platform as well, that you just mentioned, right? Like taking conversations that you're having every day and putting them into a platform that not only will make you some money, but is also being a service to people. Um, so I'll circle back to that in just a second, but I want to also touch on your speaking opportunities. And I think it's just so important to mention, like you also, when you were getting into that, you signed up for like a 7:30 a.m. Wednesday Toastmasters for like 8 years or something,
10:30,
right? Like
excuse me,
you very
Saturday, 8 a.m.
intentionally chose a time that you knew that you would have to commit to. And I think it's so easy for, like, first of all, you put in the time and the work, right? And also just knowing that it's so easy for us to look at the people that are in these positions, these agents that are crushing it, these people that are speaking on these big stages, and thinking that somehow they just took the right path and they got there overnight, when in reality, like, these are everyday decisions that people are taking to put one foot in front of the other and put themselves in the rooms that are starting to make an impact. So cheers for the years that you put into that. Yeah, and YouTube is obviously something that has a lot of potential, whether it's something that you do for showing homes or otherwise. Authenticity is what people are attracted to. So of course, that's what people liked in your content. And then, so finally, I want to end on your monthly subscription. I know we just touched on it for a second, but talking about all of this, I think all of us as agents, we are used to putting ourselves in positions of authority. We're used to having some sort of public facing front in so many ways. And so creating a personal brand that can then be jumped off on into other opportunities, I think is something that is intriguing to a lot of people. It's something that can feel like it can be natural. And yet at the same time, it's really intimidating to know what that could look like in terms of maybe a digital product or a coaching program or something like this. So, same thing as what he said for whether you're going to hire an assistant or not, kind of take stock of what you're good at, take stock of the conversations you're having regularly, see where there's value to be had there, whether it's a product that you're using all the time. I've got friends that do templates for Monday or Flowdesk or Trello, the things that you are already using that other people come to you for and say, hey, can I sit down with you about this? Like, how many times have you done that for free, and obviously pour into the people around you, but see an opportunity for what it is. Um, Technically speaking, I'd love to just know how you got that started. I love to hear kind of what platforms people use for that and how it's marketed. I think, again, there's like this, especially me, I get lost in the details, right? So I'm one of those people that likes to have everything kind of perfectly in order before you put it out. I think a lot of times people in these video situations where they've got a course like this, like they're just sitting down and recording 10 videos back to back, and then it's something that's consecutive and can be paid regularly. So just any insights there that you want to share.
Yeah. So for those of you who want to go and branch off and start adding value to the marketplace, getting paid to do it, the best platform that I've found is School, Skool. So I believe all of you need to be on the platform. It's the best platform that's out there. You have platforms like Teachable and Go High Level, which are all learning management systems with CRMs. But the best learning management system is School, Skool. And if you want to talk to consumers or you want to talk to other realtors, that's up to you to decide how do you want to do that. And what I found was best is sitting in front of the camera, having ChatGPT take my idea, shorten it up, create it more efficient, and just deliver bite-sized information. So most of the videos that I have on there right now are an hour long because I'm teaching a live audience on some sort of topic. What I'm in the process of doing right now, my 2.0, is I'm taking those ideas, putting it into AI, having it draft the script of my talk, and I'm going to have it put it into a 10-point talking system where I can deliver it in 10 minutes, where I sit in front of the camera. And then the next step after that is to have it done in multiple languages. So with AI, I can do it in Mandarin and whatever else I want to do it in. But it's school platform's the best. And I encourage all of you, at least listen, you're the licensed professional here. You're the one who's licensed to sell and to buy and to invest. There's no reason that your consumer should be going to Google and YouTube to find an answer. They should be going to your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube to find the answers. So, Gabe, what do I talk about? Well, what questions do you get asked? How do I sell my home? How do I prepare my home for sale? How do I sell my home to buy another one? How do I use my VA benefits? These are all things that all of you as professionals know. And imagine if you become the resource and not Google, and then people start to say, man, go look at Stacy's page. Go look at Marilyn's. Marilyn just talked about a page on how to do a reverse mortgage. And then they go meet with Marilyn to do a reverse mortgage to come to find out it's not the best option. Maybe a HELOC is, and they pull the money to go buy something else. And these open up organic opportunities for you guys to fill your funnel.
So thank you so much. We've talked about
Absolutely.
a lot today. I know it's hard to fit all of this in. I want to wrap it up because I want to honor everyone's time. And at the same time, I know that I've been talking for quite a bit. So I want to open it up kind of as a last call. If anyone on here has any questions that they would like to ask on any of the topics that we hit on today.
I love that. Go ahead.
I have a question that I'm sure everyone who hears your story is intrigued by. You talked about scripts and being prepared, and so many times we all find ourselves kind of just going with wherever the conversation leads us. When you were at that showing and they were repoing your car, and I'm so sorry that happened, how did you pivot? How did you stay cool with that? And did you end up selling those people a house?
Yeah, it was one of the most embarrassing, humbling moments of my life. And thank you for the apology. I look back at it now and it's part of my story. And I'm glad that it happened because it shaped me who I am today. And so that was a lead that had met door knocking. They hated their HOA. They were raising the fees. They were complaining. They were getting citations for every little thing that they were doing, kids playing outside, etc., hanging things from their door. So they had brought me over to sell it. So when I got there, the way that we pivoted, I'm telling you, this is all perfectly aligned the way it happened. So I was a few months late behind on my car payment. It was a gated community. I set the appointment first thing in the morning because I knew that the tow company wouldn't be out that early and they wouldn't get into a gated community. And I had my car parked instead of my mom's garage at the time, so they didn't have access to it. I went inside, pitched, did my whole pitch. His mother came running downstairs in Spanish and she said, "Hey, do you have a blue car?" And right when she asked me that, I already knew like what was going on. And she said, "They're towing it." And I got up and I walked outside casually. I told them to wait at the door and I walked down to the car. Guy's probably like 6'8", 500 pounds, big beard, tattoos everywhere, looking at me in my eyes. And he sees my eyes swell up. And I remember telling myself, like, keep your head in the game. That's the one thing that I was telling myself, keep your head in the game, keep your head in the game. And I looked him in the eyes. I'm like, hey, listen, I have no money. I'm working. I know I'm late. Can you please just do me this favor? Can you let my car go? And the gentle giant came out of him and he just looked me in the eyes and said, man, I can see it. He's like, but this is out of my hands now. If I had talked to you before, I would have driven by your car, but I have to take it now that it's hooked. And I just looked at him. I said, there's nothing you can do. Like, I'll give you my cell phone. I have nothing to offer you. I have no money. And he said, no. He's like, I have to take it. And I remember in that moment, I just told myself, keep your head in the game, keep your head in the game. So I took a deep breath. My eyes were swelling. My eyes were getting red. So I just took a deep breath. I turned around and I walked over with a smile and I was like, I got to keep my head in the game. So I walked over with a smile. I'm like, oh, they're going to tow it. It's okay. And in his mind, he thought the HOA had called and got my car towed. And he was like, do you see, this is why I want to sell my house. I'm like, yeah, man, screw your HOA. Come on, let's go inside and finish this up. So I walk inside and they don't sign. I don't get it. And I have no ride back home and I have no ride to the office. So this guy puts me in his 2-seater pickup truck. He drives me to my office. And I remember just feeling like a kid who just got picked up from school out, because I got expelled. That's how I felt. And it was quiet. It was a two-seater pickup. I had one of those windows you had to do this to roll it down. And I remember just getting out of the car in front of my office, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I was like, "All right, bye." And that was the last time I ever heard from him. I broke down like a baby. I cried outside of my office. But thankfully, to all of the audio tapes, motivational tapes I was listening to at that time, all of those one liners just kept on going back. Like the test will come, the test happens before the testimony. The breakdown happens before the breakthrough. Keep your head in the game. This all stories start like this. And I just remember telling myself, I have two options. I can go home and cry in defeat, or I'm already dressed up at the office and it's 10 a.m. I can get to work. And so I cried for a little while and I got back to work. And it was part of my story, and it made me resilient.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
One
Thank
of
you.
the things that you just said reminded me of what you said in our pre-interview chat, which is in the middle of MLM and headed into real estate, you trained yourself to create any time in your car to be like car college. And so I'm a huge audio consumer, whether it's podcasts or audiobooks, but just a friendly reminder on that note of like being inspired. We all as agents spend so much time in our cars. So use that as time to hone your craft or find some kind of motivational things that, because mindset is a huge investment as well, not just time in your business. So, all right, y'all,
Team,
any last thoughts? Any last questions?
good. I'm here. If you guys have any questions, idea, or anything you want to elaborate on for a quick moment.
I don't have a question, but just thank you for sharing your story. I love that. It's inspirational, and yeah, you keep moving forward. Life's going to happen around you. You can't control that part of it. You just control what you can control, and I love that attitude.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. And with that said, Kate, I just want to honor you one more time and just say thank you for allowing me to be here. Brian, thank you for allowing me to be here. And to the rest of the team, I really appreciate being here with all of you. So if you want to stay in contact, Kate can send you my Instagram. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Just send me a DM. Hey, Gabe, this, that, or the other. I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing my listing presentation. I don't mind sharing a lot of what I have, because at one point in my career, I was a new agent who had no help, and there was two people who pulled me up that had nothing to gain from my effort. And I look back and I said to myself, I'm going to pay it back. I'm going to pay it forward. And every time someone asks, so that's why I'm here today. Kate didn't pay me. She just said, "Can you do this? Can you fire up the team?" I'm like, absolutely. I'd love to do it. Be part of it. She's an incredible leader, an incredible lady in the short time that we've known each other. So thank you all for letting me be here.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Gabe. That's exactly why we do these. We just know that there's power in being in the room with people that have done and are doing what you want to do. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I will be sure to include your Instagram info in the recording when we send that out. I'll send it to you as well. Thank you again for your time. Thank you to everyone for showing up and participating. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you guys soon.
Ciao. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.